My dad was driving. My mom was next to him. I sat behind my dad on the driver's side, and my cousin was next to me. And I didn't see the guy coming. I was chatting with my mom, but she saw him and she screamed. So I curled up into a fetal position. My dad's seat slammed into my leg, dislocated my hip, broke a piece of the joint, and I passed out.
Wow.
And when I passed out, I felt like I was in the most warm and safe place I had ever been in. And I could hear a woman singing to me in what felt like an ancient language.
Wow.
And it was so beautiful and so peaceful that I didn't want to leave. But the message she was giving me through her song was, it's not your time, you have to go back.
Right.
And that crushed me in that moment because all I wanted to do was stay there. But she gently nudged me back towards the surface. I came back to consciousness. My mom was screaming, my cousin was trying to wake me up, and it was total chaos.
My guest today is Pavan Nihalani. In 2002, with an Ivy League degree in hand and 6 months of exploration in South America behind him, Pavan was set to launch his investment banking career in New York City. However, life took an unexpected turn when a major car accident led to a near-death experience. This profound event opened his mind to the metaphysical realm and set him on a journey of self-discovery, ultimately earning him certifications in hypnotherapy and energy healing. Since then, Pavan has devoted his life to helping others find inner peace and create balanced, fulfilling lives. Welcome to the Epiphany Dialogues, Pavan.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yes, well, that's a powerful start,
Mm.
to say the least. So let's get right into it. Tell me about 2002, what was happening and what happened, and how it has led you to who you are today.
So many things had to happen for that experience to happen. So in 2001, I actually moved to New York to start my investment banking career. But that was the year the dot-com economy crashed. So the bank said, we've hired too many people. We want some of you to take a year off. So while I was considering that, September 11th happened. And so then I was like, oh, wow, I can't stay in this city anymore. So I called my dad and said, look, I have this offer from the bank. What should I do? He said, take the money, but don't come back home. Go live in South America for 6 months. I had taken Spanish for 2 years at university. We were doing a lot of business with South America. So I went to Chile, lived there, perfected my Spanish, learned the supply side of the business. And then I came back to Dubai for 2 months, intending to move to New York and start my work with the bank. So I wasn't
Right.
supposed to be in Dubai at all at that time.
Right.
So I was coming back from Sharjah. We would watch a Hindi film every Friday in Sharjah back then, and we were driving back towards the Garhoud Bridge, and somebody came in the opposite direction at 180 kilometers an hour, lost control, jumped over the divider, and smashed into the driver's side of our car.
Oh my
My
goodness.
dad was driving. My mom was next to him. I sat behind my dad on the driver's side, and my cousin was next to me. And I didn't see the guy coming. I was chatting with my mom, but she saw him and she screamed. So I curled up into a fetal position. My dad's seat slammed into my leg, dislocated my hip, broke a piece of the joint, and I passed out.
Wow.
And when I passed out, I felt like I was in the most warm and safe place I had ever been in. And I could hear a woman singing to me in what felt like an ancient language.
Wow.
And it was so beautiful and so peaceful that I didn't want to leave. But the message she was giving me through her song was, it's not your time, you have to go back.
Right.
And that crushed me in that moment because all I wanted to do was stay there. But she gently nudged me back towards the surface. I came back to consciousness. My mom was screaming, my cousin was trying to wake me up, and it was total chaos. So I spent 6 weeks in a hospital bed and I had a lot of time on my hands. So I
Wow.
researched what I had been through and read about near death experiences for the first time.
Right.
Yeah.
Gosh, 6 weeks.
6 weeks. I did not touch the floor for 6 weeks. That was a really dark period in my life. And somebody gifted me the book by Paulo Coelho, The Alchemist. And
Yes.
you know, that book talks all about how the universe is conspiring to make everything in your life happen. I was like, this is utter crap. Nothing is conspiring for me. And I chucked that book away, not realizing how meaningful it would become later on in life.
Of course.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And so
Uh,
that's where your journey of discovery of life and I guess the universe and the plan and where you're meant to be started.
exactly. You know, this happened exactly half my life ago. I'm 46 now. It happened when I was 23. And for those first 23 years, I had no concept that this world existed. And suddenly now I was thrust into this new space where it's like I had only actually seen 5% of my world, and now the other 95% was unfolding. So I remember I read Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss back then,
Yeah.
and reading about past life regression, just I was like, I need to know more about this.
Right. And isn't it interesting, Pavan, that it was at a time where all of these concepts were not so readily available, like on social media? Not so many people were talking about it, at least not in this part of the world, let's say, in
Hmm.
our awareness. And the fact that you were thrust into it and you had this insatiable, like, urge to delve deeper into it, was that a lonely feeling at all?
No, I found a community so quickly. So I went to Bombay and I had found this place called the International Academy of Life. I had a
Right.
past life regression done to me, and it was so powerful, and it gave me insight into an issue in my current life that I didn't realize needed resolving. But when I got the insight, I was like, oh, now it makes so much sense that I realized I have to study it. And once I started studying it,
Huh.
well, that's when the community formed, and that's when I met you, and this
Yes.
whole community just mushroomed around me. It was beautiful.
Wow, no, I'm so glad you found that because when I started right in the beginning, of course, then I found all of you as well.
Mm,
But
mm,
right in the beginning, I felt like nobody knew about this. Nobody
mm,
wanted to know about it.
right.
Nobody was curious.
Mm.
Everyone was kind of like, oh, she's weirder than we thought, you know? And I did have a period of feeling quite alone in all of this, and the
Mm,
internet wasn't as developed at that point. So it wasn't necessarily very easy to come across all the information, but as they say, you know, what you seek is seeking you. So I did find everything, and then of course the community. But yeah, it can be in the beginning, I believe, because you're so far removed from who you were and the
mm,
people that you aligned with,
mhm,
that it can feel a little bit isolating
mhm,
until you kind of get back on your feet and
yeah.
say, no, this means something to me,
Mhm, mhm.
right?
Yeah. You know, I always felt very different from the rest of my family, although
Yeah,
after thinking that for 40 plus years, I think everybody thinks that they're different from the rest of their family. So I guess it just means we're all unique, right?
true, true,
Yeah.
very true. So
Mm.
what happened from there? You actually started at first having regression and all of these kind of modalities uh, presented to you.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
You experienced them for yourself first, and then you started studying them.
Correct. I started studying, I got certified, and then I actually started practicing. And like you said, it was so new that everybody was fascinated and everybody wanted to try it out for themselves.
Yeah.
But there was some dissonance for me because I was still working in the family business at the time, and I was actually splitting my time equally between the two. I would go to my dad's office in the mornings and I would go to the wellness center in the afternoons. And something about it wasn't sitting right for me. And so I went off and did a Vipassana.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know how much you know about it, but it's 10 days of no talking, no making eye contact, no reading, no writing, no phones, nothing. It's just you go inwards to release all the cravings and aversions from your body and to get to know yourself better. So I did that for 10 days, and when I came out of it, I had the clarity that although this was my path, it wasn't the right time for it.
Wow.
And so then I
Okay.
dedicated my time fully to the family business while keeping my practice alive on the side, but as a non-commercial enterprise. So I would just do it for family and friends who would ask for help.
Right.
And I still loved talking about the subject. And I loved helping guide people. But I just didn't feel like I was in the place that I wanted to do it as a full-time activity until I made the final switch last year, and now I'm full-time. So
My
yeah,
goodness.
yeah, came
That's
full circle.
amazing.
Hmm.
You felt now that that was the time.
Totally. This time felt more right than ever that it was time to dedicate to what I feel is my calling.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
because in your intro, you also say that beyond helping clients overcome deeply ingrained blocks, Pavan guides them in liberating the immense potential of their subconscious minds. Drawing on his background in business and competitive sports, he empowers individuals to elevate their performance and excel in areas where they already thrive, creating lives of greater harmony and achievement. Tell us a little more about that.
So I've been playing golf for over 30 years, and it's something that's a passion of mine and has been for a long time. And just 2 years ago, I read about a professional golfer in the US who had plummeted in the rankings. He hadn't won a tournament in years. And out of nowhere, he came and won this really big tournament. And when they interviewed him, he credited his success to his sessions with a hypnotherapist. And that blew my mind. Wait, you can use it for sport, and specifically, you can use it for golf? That
Yeah,
for me, that was a huge catalyst. And so I went deep into researching because until this point, I had only ever used hypnosis and regression and the subconscious mind to help people get over trauma. I had
right,
never used it to help people get better at things they were already very good at. And when
right.
that side of the story opened up for me, I knew it was time to make that switch.
Wow. And so
Yeah.
you help people uh, excel and do better
Exactly. So
in,
I have clients who are athletes, I have clients who are in business, and they all have ingrained blocks also. Actually, many of them also have trauma that they're dealing with, but by helping them through that and sharpening their performance, they get to
Mhm.
a much better place.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a great kind of a little niche to have as well,
Indeed,
right?
indeed. And yeah, so like I said, I've been playing golf for over 30 years. I was in business for over 20 years. So with all that experience, now I can bring, and that's actually one of the things that I felt I was missing 16 years ago when I trained. I had the
Right.
theoretical knowledge, but the experience was missing. So since then, I've had 20 years of business experience, years
Yeah.
of golf. I got married, I had children, got
Right.
separated. So I had so much life experience to offer my clients as well now.
True, of course, of course. No, that makes a lot of sense. But honestly, I want to go back to the near-death experience.
Sure.
It is not commonly experienced or talked about. So tell us a little more about those few minutes. How long did it actually feel? And what kind of space were you in? A lot of people talk about witnessing themselves from above their bodies, like just a little more detail. I
Hmm,
think a
hmm,
lot
hmm.
of people would like to know.
Sure, sure. So it actually, how long was I actually out? Probably a matter of seconds. How long
Wow.
did it feel? It felt like time stopped. It felt like
Right.
time wasn't even a concept in that space. And I don't think I had any visuals. It was all sensory, all feelings. And I felt like I was just enclosed in a very beautiful space, possibly like a womb situation. But I felt very warm. I felt hugged. I felt taken care of. And I could hear this beautiful ethereal voice just singing to me, just talking about things that have existed for centuries and millennia and before the start of time. And it was just so beautiful and so peaceful. I felt like I could stay there in this space and in this feeling forever. And then, as the meaning of the words slowly started to sink in, and it was actually the voice telling me, "You're here, and I welcome you here, but I'm slowly sending you back. You've caught a glimpse of this for a reason.
Yes.
There's a purpose why you've caught a glimpse of this. But now, with this glimpse, go back to your life and make something of it."
Right. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful feeling,
Mm.
of course, of being held like that, with so much like unconditional love and this feeling of time stopping, which is like something that we are all like searching for these days, right? It feels even more difficult to capture the sense of time just stopping because everything is just so fast right now and just
Totally.
so many distractions. That's and the guidance Just the sense of, at such a young age as well, to recognize that there is something so beautiful on the other side, um, that it's home, it's a sense of home, and that I will connect with it again, and I can carry it with me now, right?
Yeah. And I had a somewhat similar experience more recently when I went on an ayahuasca journey. And through that journey, I felt again the embrace of that mother, feeling so taken care of, so hugged, so in touch with nature that I was speaking the language of nature.
Oh,
And now that
wow.
I think about it, for the first time, actually, maybe that woman was singing to me in the language of nature. And I remember in the ayahuasca journey, every time I tried to translate a thought from nature into English, the mother figure would gently chide me and say, "No, child, let's speak in nature." And then I would just
Right.
go back to that beautiful space. I'm just making that connection right now.
Right. No,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. It's like, nature and everything that is alive is made of light and photons, right? And I'm sure you've heard of light language as well, which is thankfully now coming a lot into the, regular realm for all of us to access. And I find it so calming and so uplifting. There are many channelers that you can find now who channel light language transmissions.
Mm,
And I don't understand any of it at all, obviously, but there's something in the way that it flows
yeah.
that is just so comforting. It's beyond anything that words could express. And you just kind of allow yourself, like in the beginning, obviously, I used to laugh a lot because it actually sounds quite funny at times.
Okay.
But something kept drawing me to it. So beyond the laughter and
Mm,
just like being really amused by it and just wondering like, wow, these people are so courageous that they put
mhm,
themselves out
mhm,
there
mhm, mhm,
sharing this kind of stuff that sounds almost like gibberish, but from a different planet, you know? And once I kind of allowed myself to go through that,
mhm,
uh, you know, period of judging and laughing at it, I really started feeling so much comfort and so much energetic upliftment for no conscious reason that makes sense to me. But it's just like, oh, that's a beautiful way to start a day.
wow.
There's
Okay.
something energetic that shifts in the body. It's like because we are light as well. And something is being channeled there, which really moves me a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. And I had an experience as well in one of our hypnotherapy training sessions um, where there was a workshop called From Regression to
Mhm,
Progression.
mhm,
And so we were being taken through all sorts of different past lives when you were a plant, when you were an animal, and I was going through all of those and I would get nothing. And a lot of people would come out of the session saying, yes, I was this and I was that and I
yeah,
was a
I was one of
butterfly.
those. I was all these
Right?
things. I was a crystal. I was an alien.
Right. Right. And I would be like, oh my God, like I'm defective, like I have nothing, you know? And then one of the instructors actually recognized something within me when I said, I'm not getting anything and I'm not going to force it. And she said, okay, we're going to do one extra regression just to see. And she didn't say that it was for me or anything of that sort. And then they guided us through a regression where we go back to our source, our home, before the human incarnations. And oh my God,
Yeah.
I went to that place. And I won't go into a lot of details, but it was dark. It was damp. It was dry as well as damp. Like there was dampness in the sense
Mhm.
that you could feel it, but it wasn't raining or
Okay.
wet
Okay.
or anything, right? And it was in a space where we were all aware of who we are and what we're contributing. There was no language, There was no miscommunication. There was telepathy, and everyone had this role which they honored very, very much. And it was almost like a factory in some place in the cosmos where fear comes up from Earth and we transmute it into love and faith and send it back. Okay? It was very interesting. And by the end of it, the instructors had to really coax me, like really, really, try and guide me to come back, because I was like, no, this is home. I don't want to come back. So it wasn't a near-death experience or anything, but I can totally relate to that feeling of feeling like, oh my God, why? Why do I have to go back? This is where I belong. This is who I am. But yeah, what I did was that I took that forward in the work that I do. Obviously, that's what we're doing, right, at Pavan? We're taking the fear, the pain, and whatever it is, and helping people to first we see it, we acknowledge it, we honor it, and then we're helping people to transmute it and shift it into a lighter energy, right? So yeah, these things really, in that moment, may not feel as impactful as they become, because I feel like I'm living that. I'm living that for myself. I'm able to transmute fear and anxiety and pain much better than I used to, because I almost like got introduced to who I am.
Yeah, wow, that's a beautiful story. Yeah, and it makes so much sense.
Yeah, very interesting. And in that particular session, most people didn't get anything.
Okay.
And it was almost as if she did this for me, for which I'm eternally grateful. It was very interesting. And then everyone was sitting there saying, really? Oh, wow. And I was just a fly, in another incarnation. So it kind of just made that whole workshop come together for me, because I was so disappointed. I was like, oh my God, like session after session, I'm getting nothing. But then I finally connected with that. Right. So I want to talk about something that you have been talking about on your social media quite a bit, and it's very, very interesting, which is the mother wound. Tell us more.
So, practically speaking, we all have a mother wound just by virtue of the fact that we were separated from our mothers at birth, right? We were in this incredibly safe space for up to 10 months, warm, being fed, given nourishment, and then suddenly out into the harsh glare of the world. So that in of itself is a very jarring experience and creates ripples throughout life.
Sure.
And that's something we deal with on a regular basis. But what I'm even more interested in with the mother wound is actually when the relationship between the mother and the child is disturbed in some way, either because the mother doesn't know how to take care of it or raise the child, or is willfully behaving in a way that's harmful towards the child. So we're talking about things like neglect or lack of love, lack of affection, or overprotectiveness. I mean, it can go both ways, right?
Sure.
To get that balance right for a mother, there's so much pressure, right? If
Yeah.
you do too much, it's going to mess up the child. If you do too little, and it's going to mess up the child. You have to do just enough. The temperature has to be just right. Everything has to fall into the place for the child to be like, yeah, you know what? That was a perfect relationship. So,
True.
and it impacts all areas of our lives, right? So all our relationships are impacted by the kind of relationship we have or had with our mothers. Definitely romantic relationships for men, or for people who are attracted to women, but even familial relationships, relationships with your friends, relationship with your finances, with your career. Everything is impacted to some degree with the relationship with your mother, which is the original wound that we suffer. So a lot of my clients come in with unresolved issues with their mothers, and 99% of them say, but it's okay. I've forgiven her. I've made my peace with her. She had a difficult childhood. She wasn't loved. I
True.
understand it. It all makes sense. And I say, okay, if you have, then why is it still playing out? And then I help them realize while the adult you has forgiven the mother and intellectualized the whole thing,
Yes.
the inner child knows nothing about intellectualization and forgiving the mother and realizing that the mother went through her own difficult childhood. And
Yes.
that switches on a light bulb in their heads. You're right. You said, my child has not made those understanding. And I said, that's what we have to work on. Help the child heal from those emotions so that your adult intellectualization can now synthesize with that healing and help you propel forward.
Right. And
Yeah.
how do we convince the inner child? How do we do that healing? Of course, through clinical hypnotherapy, I assume, but how does that conversation go? Because yes, there is that adult part of you that has accepted it and, forgiven. But if the inner child, what kind of language do we speak to this young child?
So hypnosis is just one way to connect with the inner child, right? There's so many ways to get into the subconscious, and I use a variety of ways, right? So apart from hypnosis, using breathing or using EFT or just working with the body to get
Right.
into that subconscious space where the inner child naturally emerges. And with the inner child, as you know, there's no intellectualization of anything, right? It's just about connecting with the emotion that the child is feeling in the best way that it can articulate that emotion. If the inner child has words to articulate the emotion, then we deal with that. But sometimes the inner child just has a non-verbal way of showing it, right? Either
Yeah.
by crying or shouting. And that's what we end up dealing with. And help so much of what we do is just help release the trapped emotions from the body. And once the emotion has been sent out into the universe and out of the body, relief starts happening almost immediately. You don't even have to understand why it's happening. You just have to understand that I'm letting go of something that I've been holding on to for so long.
Yes. Yes. And then it also, I guess, um, relates back to how you then interact with that inner child, how you almost re-raise her from a healed mother's perspective, right?
Totally, totally. Yeah. To show the inner child that anything you went through was, we're not rejecting what you went through. We
Yeah.
accepting. In fact, we're accepting it and we're reintegrating it to know that that's part of life too, but you can heal from it. And if I have to see, this is how I end all my sessions to explain or help the client see that self acceptance is the greatest gift you can give yourself. We don't, because many clients come in and say, can you help me forget this happened? Can you help
Mm-hmm.
just erase this from my life? And I say, absolutely not. But what I
Yeah.
can help you do is accept this happened to me, but I'm okay. I'm okay accepting that, integrating it, and moving on from it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So basically, it seems like most people would have some kind of an implication in their life coming from the separation, the perceived separation
Perceived
from the
separation.
mother.
Yeah,
Right.
totally. Everyone
Is
comes in with something to do with that.
right. And is there an example that you have that comes to your mind that would show us what that might look like in a client?
Yeah, sure. So I had this client who he was in his 30s at the time and he was suffering from epilepsy. And he- we went back into his childhood year by year, slowly to try and figure out if we could get to the root cause. And we kept going back until we got to the day of his birth. And so he was visualizing him being born, just coming out of his mother and getting a lot of attention.
Mm.
But he was one of a set of twins, and he was the older one. And as soon as the younger one was born, all the attention shifted to the younger one, and suddenly
Wow.
this older one was left completely bereft of attention. And so in that moment, he had a seizure. And all the attention came right back to him. And then he realized in life that whenever he felt lonely or unattended to, he would have a seizure, and then suddenly all the attention would be on him. So just from the very first day being separated from his mother's love, and had he not had a twin brother, would this have happened? It's hard to say, but in that moment, that's the connection that he made.
Wow, that's brilliant. Thanks for
Yeah,
sharing that. That it just
yeah,
shows how certain things that you don't think would be, at all,
right,
you know, yeah, uh, connected would impact you so much, and especially like in the physical body. That's quite a big deal.
right. And I say to my clients, right, when we have to think of trauma for the child, we have to think traumatic from the child's perspective, not from the adult perspective. We intellectualize everything and say, yeah, it's okay, we understand. But for children, everything is traumatic. And anyone who has children, like I do, I don't know, you give a lollipop to one and a smaller lollipop to the other, and it's the end of the world. So,
True, true.
yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
I think people also need to recognize that trauma doesn't have to mean anything huge or bad necessarily that has happened to you. Trauma is overused, obviously,
yes, yeah.
and sometimes misused, but a lot of pain can come from even unmet needs or unsaid words. It doesn't have to be something that hurt you in that way, but just the withholding of it, or the not having the capacity to give that to you because of your character, of how you were. You needed a little more, perhaps, and you didn't get that. And that can also cause what they call trauma.
Trauma,
And
exactly.
it's not something to be overlooked or to minimize and say, hey, come on, that sounds like a pretty normal childhood. Like the definition of normal is also like, right, so conditioned. Like, oh, yeah, I had a normal childhood. Dad was never really around. He was busy working. Mom was so busy with all the, other chores and things like that. So we were kind of raised by the grandparents or some, help around the house and things like that. And we kind of just raised each other. But yeah, normal childhood, and yes, of course, I totally get that it's normal. And I totally get that you might be living a great life and it might not be affecting you. But if something does affect you, or you do have some pain, it's worthwhile just opening up the space within yourself to say, okay, well, that might not have been a big thing, but my child self felt like it was. And it did cause a pain in me. It did cause a limitation within me. And it's okay for me to look at myself in that way and say, sure, a lot of people might not see this as a big deal, but I see you. I hear you,
Yeah.
And that makes such a big difference, because people are just trying to go through life and compare traumas and just say, oh, no, let's go to gratitude. Like, no, I have it so much better than everyone. And that's beautiful. It's great, but not at the expense of your wholeness.
Yeah, you can't diminish what somebody else feels because you have no idea what they're feeling, the intensity of what they're feeling. Or even if we see the same color red when we say we're looking at red. So our experiences are so varied and still connected in such a way. So yeah, everyone has their own life journey.
Yes, and a lot of people who we consider to be sensitive or, more easily affected by their emotions are just looked at as weak. And that's also something that we need to consider, that they're withholding their pain at times because they just want to fit in, they want to belong, they want to be seen as normal. Again, that word, and they also, it takes them some time to actually recognize that, no, maybe I need some therapy. I need to go talk to someone. I can't keep masking like this. It's okay if my friends don't perhaps understand or don't display it. And then when they go and they do it and they have the courage to talk to their friends about it, some of those other friends will also be like, oh, interesting. Okay, I might, find some things about myself that could help me to grow if I were able to heal from them.
Yeah, it's a very common thing for people to say to me, it kind of apprehensively, have you ever had another client who's going through what I'm going through? And I'll say,
Yes.
you'll be surprised. We're all going through the same things. We hide it
Yes.
better, we display it differently, we mask it, but ultimately we're all going through some form of pain. And that's a huge sense of relief just for people to know, hey, I'm not alone in this.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Hi, everyone. We just wanted to take a quick moment to thank you for being here with us at the Epiphany Dialogues, where curiosity meets consciousness. If you're enjoying this episode, please hit the like button, follow, subscribe, and share with like-minded people.
And you're also welcome to join our conversation. If you have an epiphany to share, please leave us a comment or email us. Details are in the description below. And with that, back to the episode.
Another thing I wanted for you to take us through is Wu Wei.
Mm. So the concept of Wu Wei came to me about 12 years ago, 13 years ago. I was in Beijing. I was climbing the Great Wall. And when I got to the bottom, there was a calligraphy store there. And the proprietor claimed to be a descendant of the last emperor or something. So it was a very magical experience. And he had hundreds of posters all over his wall. And one caught my eye, and of course, all in Mandarin. And I said, I want that one. What does it say? And he said, Wu Wei. So I packed it up, rolled it up, took it back to Dubai, and then looked it up. And it's a central concept in Taoism, which translates to action through inaction. And it's all about just flowing with the path that unfolds in front of you, not trying to manufacture anything, force anything, engineer anything, but just taking a step in the direction of a desire that's awakened within you, and then seeing if that path unfolds. And if it doesn't, then just reassessing, hey, perhaps this path is not for me right now, and taking a step in another direction and seeing if that path unfolds in front of you. And then just flowing along that path with the rhythm of the universe until you reach a place where you have to adjust your path again. So constantly being in touch with yourself, in touch with the signs to see. And the question I ask myself on a daily basis and multiple times a day when I'm in different situations is, am I flowing? And if the answer is no, then I know to take a step back and just readjust what I'm doing. So yeah, am I flowing is a great way to check what path you're on.
Right. And that
Yeah.
ties in really well with your experience of life when you did take a step back a little bit from this realm and went more, back into your father's business and all of that. And you just knew that, okay, it's not unfolding in the way that I would love for it to, or it would bring me that feeling of fulfillment and joy. And it's just for now. And you allowed yourself to go through all of those experiences and become more whole in that realm, which, like you said, brought you more experience now in this realm, and that's really beautiful, and I get why that resonates with you, and it does with me as well. But I also ask on behalf of the people who have been conditioned to fight their way through and feel like no pain, no gain, and that life has to be challenging, or if I want something so much that I should actually persevere and go through all the challenges because it makes it all worth it. What would you say to those people?
First thing I would ask people to do is just look back on the experiences they've had when they've had to fight for something and when they've finally achieved the result. How has it made them feel? And for
Yes.
many people, they'll say, actually, I felt empty at the end and I thought, this is what I was fighting so hard for. And then,
Yes.
if that is the case, then to consider doing it another way. However, there are some people who, at the end, when they reach the finish line, have a feeling of elation. Yes, this is exactly what I wanted to do. Listen, we've all chosen our journeys on this planet, right? There's no one size fits all. Today, Wu Wei may work for you. Tomorrow, it may not. In this life, it may work. In another life, it may not. So just it helps you get in touch with yourself. What works for me?
Yeah.
And if it works for you and it works for you to flow, great. And if it works for you to fight every day, wake up and, beat something down to make it to the finish line, and that journey is chosen, you've chosen it and it feels right to you, and
Yes.
who's anyone to tell you that it's not?
I think the very important point here is that it feels right to you. I always kind of suggest that people keep, intermittently weighing the challenge part of it and overcoming something, which is obviously it does bring a hit of dopamine, right? Of feel-good hormones, whatever they might be, to overcome something that was challenging. But always kind of measure if the challenge is always heavier than a sense of fulfillment, or if there's a decent balance and you're happy with it, or if the feeling of just magic and serendipity and synchronicity and things just falling into place because that's what my heart wants and that's what life also wants for me. It's not like you won't have challenges, you will, but you will have the capacity to work through them with effort, but not effort that makes you feel so challenged and frustrated and broken. So I always kind of tell people to find where their balance is. And yes, like you said, it's different for different people. Some people are very motivated by fixing a problem or solving a situation, and that's cool. But always, I would say, consider if it is joyful as well, if it is fulfilling as well, or is it just a fight that you just want to keep fighting and winning? And because what happens is that, like you said, either they feel empty by the end of it, or they get this whole imprint of themselves just presenting themselves as fighters. And so what are you going to get? More things to fight. And how long are you going to be able to sustain that? Because as you know, people, when we get to by the time we get to our age, we don't necessarily have the capacity to fight all the time that we did when we were younger, you know? So I always just ask people to consider that. Like, do you want to be doing this for the rest of your life? Because the more you do it, the more it just becomes your identity, and that's how you grow, and that's how you learn, and that's how you feel satisfied with yourself. Perhaps interchange it a little bit, you know, bring in a few other things into your portfolio that might help you later on in life if you choose to kind of hang up that fighter hat for a while. And you can always take it out when actually a fight comes up that's worthy of fighting, but do you always need to do that? And it helps people to say, oh yeah, that's true. Like every time I've decided that I want to grow, something to fight for comes into my life, and that's what, you know, motivates me to do that. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I listen, I think that we also attract the experiences that we want, right? So if what you're used to one type of thing and that's how you define your identity, then I think it will keep coming back. But again, you have to decide for yourself, is that what I want? Is that
Yes.
what brings me joy? Am I
Yes.
enjoying this happening over and over again? And if not, what do I need to shift for in order to
Yes.
not happen again?
True.
At the other end of the spectrum, you may have somebody who seems to be doing nothing at all, right? Let's say a person who doesn't need to work because they're taken care of, just seems to chill and hang out, and it's equally easy to be judgmental of them and say,
Yes.
well, they need to be doing something. Well, actually, they don't. If they
Yeah.
get joy out of doing exactly what they're doing, who are we to say that they should be doing something different, right? So,
True.
from both ends of the spectrum, to let people figure out what brings me joy, what brings me fulfillment and balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. That has been almost the story of my life, you know, starting off with a lot of battles and fights and proving
Yeah.
myself and becoming independent and, you know, very self-sufficient, very proud of that, a really good fixer solver, you know,
Right.
all of that. And then recognizing that I am so sure that there is more to me
Yeah.
than just this. And that was just how life presented itself. And that's how I presented myself to life. But life is showing me something different right now. Do I want to just see what that's about? So I had to almost like over a period of time, open myself up to the goodness, to the magic, to things happening easily,
Right.
to following my inner guidance rather than, you know, mentally strategizing how to do things. And now I'm at that place which is very close to what you just described, the people who are not really doing much, really, you know, the
I
people
love
that I
it.
did used to judge.
Right.
And the whatever I'm doing, like even this, is for fun. It's because I can, you know, not for any strategy or any other agenda, but it's just because, yeah, why not? You know, I know so many awesome, cool people. Why don't I just have these conversations and share them? But yeah, I'm at that place, Pavan, where I never thought I would be, that I would allow myself to be, because I did used to judge that. And that middle space, you know, on this journey was uncomfortable. Like when I first started taking naps, I was just like, oh my God, like what is wrong
You
with
take
me?
naps? What a great life.
Yes, and it was a whole thing of trying to sell it to myself like it's okay. You don't have to be productive just because the sun is
Right.
out. You can
Productive.
actually,
Yeah.
close
Yeah.
your eyes for a bit. You can
Mm,
rest. You
mm,
don't have to, it's all right. And it's been a journey. And I'm just so glad that I gave myself the permission to experience that. And I'm still in the process of finding that balance. But it's all coming from that place of, yes, if I need to solve something, if something comes up, because life,
yeah.
I know how to do that.
Right.
But right now, this new thing of actually like really living each day, being present, enjoying it, not doing anything out of pressure, doing only what I want to do, it's it's such a privilege. And I still, at times, have to remind myself, like, okay, don't try to add things to your
Yeah.
day. This is
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
really lovely
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it. So yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. I think it, like you said, even if that's your life path and that's what you're supposed to do, which is go, go, go,
Mm,
just be a little open, I would say, to just these little pockets of glimmers and joys and rest and fun and playfulness. You never know what you might find in there.
yeah. It's funny. I sleep only about 5 hours a night. And whenever I say
Wow.
that to somebody, they say, "Oh my God, you have so many hours to be productive." And I say, no, it's the opposite. I have hours to not be productive. So
Yes.
it's a hard concept sometimes for people to grasp. But no, those couple of hours that I get just to myself to do nothing, I
Yes.
really treasure those.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. Like I've started waking up like at 5:30 these days.
Mm,
And 5:30 to around 7, that's when my husband wakes up and
okay.
comes into, that my space. That is my time, and it's
Mm,
so calm and
yeah.
quiet. And I try my best not to go onto my phone for the first hour and just enjoy every sip of whatever I'm drinking and set my intentions and gratitude and all of that. And yes, it's absolutely a privilege. And if I had not recognized that I am the one to give myself permission to enjoy it, I would have filled it up with something or the other, you know?
Sure.
So yeah, I'm so glad we're talking about this
Mm.
because I think a lot of people right now in this era of hustle uh, perhaps need a little reminder. Um, Another thing I wanted you to speak about, Pavan, is happiness versus meaning. I've taken all the gems from your social
Yeah, I
media,
can see
which I
that.
will put in the show notes, obviously, so that people can find you. But all of these concepts are very important. And so I would love for you to share that.
Right. So I think so much, especially with the emergence and proliferation of social media, has been about finding happiness, good vibes only, positivity, and all of that. And every time I see that, I'm like, but wait, that's only half the story. How do you have happiness if you don't have sadness? How do you have good vibes if you don't have bad vibes? Like, how can you tell the difference? How do you set the polarization, the opposition of the two?
Right.
What I'm suggesting is that actually happiness is not what we're searching for because happiness, sadness, these emotions come and go based on the experiences that we're having. And if we're happy all the time, then that becomes our base case. Then that becomes neutral. Then we're always searching for that next hit. It's
Right.
like a drug, right? The first time you take it, it feels great. And then if you're constantly searching for that high, you'll have to take more and more just to maintain that level of exhilaration that you got the first time, right? I believe the focus shouldn't be, and actually isn't, on happiness versus sadness at all. It's on finding things that are meaningful to you. What makes your life purposeful? And I speak about how, and let me remember the numbers right, but we're this tiny organism, tiny planet, tiny solar system, tiny galaxy in a universe that's 93 billion light years in diameter. So far, that's what they've discovered, right?
Right.
And and we think that we have to, someone has given us a purpose, and that someone has said, yeah, for this person on this tiny planet, this is your purpose. No, we have to create that purpose for ourselves. We have to create that meaning in our lives, so that when we wake up in the morning, we have something to look forward to. And again,
Yes.
no judgment about what that purpose is. What brings you meaning? What makes you feel like, I've had a day where I've enjoyed living, I've found my meaning, I've contributed towards my life in some meaningful way, to make it feel like, okay. And something that I like to do every morning and every evening, so as soon as I wake up, before I look at my phone, I do a little meditation, thinking about, what am I excited for today?
Yes.
And at the evening, once I'm in bed, lights off, I think to myself, what am I grateful for today? And when I bookend my day with these two little meditations, it really
Yeah.
brings into perspective, hey, how did my day go? And what have I got to show for it? Not from a productive point of view, what have I produced? What have I sold? No, how did I feel today? Just a
Right.
connection with myself in the morning and at night.
Beautiful. That's
Yeah.
really helpful. And of course, finding meaning. I think it's from the beginning of time that us humans have been doing that, and I love that it is so diverse. Like
Mm,
finding meaning for
yeah,
each of us is completely different at times. Of course, we align with some people where we find similar things meaningful, but really it's all about what really touches you, and what
totally.
really fills your heart and
Totally.
fills almost like this sense of your soul, if you're connected with it, or if you believe in a soul. Because a lot of people, actually, I will not go off on that tangent, but a lot of people are like, no, there's no soul. What is that? But something that really touches your spirit,
Totally.
and makes you feel like that was a important thing for me to experience.
Indeed.
In that moment, it can be very uh, fleeting as well. In terms of meaning doesn't have to mean something huge or big, but it can be very fleeting and yet at the same time very fulfilling.
Yeah. And the important thing about meaning that you'll notice, and when you see the things that are meaningful to you or to others, is that things that are meaningful rarely just make you feel one thing. It's not
Yes.
only going to make you happy, right? It will give you a range of emotions. And for example, raising kids for me is very meaningful, and it
Mm,
brings me more joy than anything else I've ever experienced. But it can also be the most frustrating thing in the world. So that makes it meaningful, that it gives me a whole range. If it was all just good times and good vibes only, I don't think it would be as meaningful. So that's how I differentiate happiness versus meaning. Meaningful things will give you that whole range of emotions, what it means to be a human, whereas things that bring you happiness will bring you just one side of the story.
true. No,
Yeah.
that's really important. Thank you
Mm.
so much. We've come so far into this episode, and I have not asked our standard question
Okay.
that I ask everyone, is what is an epiphany that changed the course of your life? And I know you've talked about many things here that are epiphanies, but is
Mm.
there any recent one or something that you're kind of working on right now that you might want to share? Or,
I know where you're going with this. Yeah. Yeah, I've recently been having thoughts around the concept of life lessons, right? And I was reflecting on how, even in my own life and in the lives of people that I've worked with, that the same lessons keep repeating themselves. Even when you think you've learned the lesson, practiced it, even mastered it, that still some echo of it keeps coming back. And it made me just reflect on even the term life lesson. And I thought,
mm,
maybe this means that these lessons are actually lifelong, right?
right,
That before we incarnate as humans, we say, okay, these are the lessons that we want to learn. And then we come down and start learning them. And even once we've mastered them, those lessons still continue coming back, just so we can it's kind of like continuing education, make sure you're
right,
still up to speed. Just like, for example, you train your body, you eat well. You can't do that for one day and be like, okay, I'm done, I'm trained. Or you train your mind, learn a language and be like, okay, now I'm sharp for life. No, I feel like even for the soul, once you've mastered the lesson, you have to continue practicing it. And for example, if your life lesson is kindness, just because you mastered it today and then you stop doing it tomorrow, well, then no, you have to continue practicing it over and over again until, well,
Yeah.
life. But I know you
Right.
have a slightly different view on that. So tell me, what do you think of that?
No, listen, I completely do agree that there are some main themes that do kind of just, transcend through your lifetime in many different ways, whether it's you learning it or you mastering it or you
Yep.
teaching it as well,
Sure.
right? So I actually agree with most of it. I just feel like it's just important to add the element of that you're not necessarily always learning it in a way that feels like work or that it's problematic or painful. That, like I said, sometimes coming from my own experience, I guess, I feel like a lot of things that I have worked on and healed and learned is something that I am now disseminating as well. And so it continues and I still learn. Like when I share it or when I teach it or when I express it in my sessions with my clients and their response and how they actually take it through and come back with, this is what happened when I did this or when I thought about something like this. I still learn. I'm still picking up. I'm still in the energy of that theme of whatever it is that it might be. And it might be more than one theme and things like that. And that sometimes as well, it continues in the way that you have done your work, let's say, and there are other people who have done it in a totally different way. And you kind of collide with them. And again, life lesson, at some point in your life, and you're like, oh, wow, I never saw it from that perspective, So, no, I'm not, I don't disagree at all.
Okay, good.
I just feel like it's important to point that out as well, just for people to not necessarily get stuck in the whole, I have to solve this problem all my life and there's no getting out of it, because sometimes it can get a little tiring. So that's just that little thing I wanted to put in there.
Yeah, and it reminds me, I've been reading a lot of the work of Carl Jung, who was a disciple of Freud, right? And he talks about how there are 4 stages to a human's life. The first stage, when you individuate yourself from your parents. The second stage, when you individuate yourself from the world. And then the third stage, which you and I are in or coming out of, from your late 30s to your mid 40s, where you realize that everything you know about yourself is only half the story. And the rest of you, which is the total opposite of what you know about yourself, is sitting in your unconscious. And this whole third stage, which he calls the middle passage, is about integrating your unconscious with the ego that you have formed for the previous 3.5 decades.
Right.
And then when you transcend that stage, you come into the point where you're connecting with your spiritual world. And so, like you said, once you feel like it's stopped being work and it's just something that you're practicing doing, then you start making the shift into the fourth stage where your connection to the spiritual world starts becoming more important to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks for bringing that in. That helps provide some evidence for our random chit chats.
Yeah, right. There's some scientific backing.
Yeah, absolutely. Pavan, before we close, there's a question that we ask our guests.
Okay.
If time is not linear and the past, present, and future is all happening at the same time, imagine that there is your highest potential in the future, the most actualized and fulfilled version of yourself. Imagine that he is coming in right now to tell you something, to give you a message. What would you hope that he would say?
It's interesting that you bring up, right, this concept of nothing being linear. And I kind of had a vision of what that feels like, especially if we believe in the concept that we're living multiple lives and they're all happening at the same time. Then how does that even make sense? And the picture that came to my mind, this was many years ago, was that if all these things are happening at the same time, and you think of a spotlight as your consciousness, the spotlight is on what you're feeling right now, on this life. That's where your consciousness is residing. And sometimes, even within the space of a life, your consciousness can shift from one to another. And so it's about where that spotlight is focused in this moment.
True.
So what I would want to know, Vim, is how do you actually grasp the entirety of this experience into this one life? How can we, the experience that the soul has, how can we feel a bit of it in this life so that we know what it is that we're working towards? Because in so many ways we're just walking blind, right? Every day unfolds in front of us. And it's a double-edged sword, right? Because you want to know, for example, would you want to know today when you're going to die?
That'll probably be a different conversation, but yes, I would.
I would too. I would too, right?
Right.
So you can
Okay,
see, so
great.
there's this desire to know what's on the other side, but
Right.
actually so much of the beauty is in letting the path unfold. So it kind of a dichotomy, right? So what I
True.
would want to know is what's going to happen. And actually I don't really want to know because I want to experience it as it's happening. So there's your
Sure.
answer.
Sure. That's fair enough. If there was any word of encouragement or support or guidance, not necessarily predictive,
Mm.
what would you like to hear from your future self? I'm not letting this go so easy.
Everything's gonna be okay. But we already know that, Zimmy. We already know that, right?
True.
And that
True.
at the end we're going back home where we belong,
Yes.
right? That place that
Yes.
you and I have caught glimpses of at times, and many other people in the world have caught that glimpse of home,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
if that's our final destination, as final as something can be when there's no concept of time, right? So
True.
we'll keep going in this circle. Yeah, but
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you have today. It's so valuable, so insightful, and I'm so grateful for your energy and your presence and our connection that has lasted over 20 years.
yeah, thank you for bringing me on the show. It's really nice to be able to speak to somebody like-minded and have a dialogue about it, because so much of teaching and therapy is you guiding other people, but then, to have somebody that you can actually dialogue about it. Yeah, it's really special.
Of course, my pleasure. We'll keep chatting, Pavan. Take care
For
of
sure.
yourself.
Thank you so much.